What would you do if your own child threw you away like trash, only to crawl back when life punished them? This isn't just a story of betrayal, it's a story of survival, dignity, and justice. Stay with me to the very end, and if this story moves you, hit subscribe and share where you're watching from. You won't want to miss how it all turns around. My name is Eleanor Hayes, and I'm 74 years old. 3 days after my son abandoned me in front of a rotting house in the woods, he called me 45 times, screaming, "Mom, what did you do?" But by then, it was already too late. I grew up on a farm in the Midwest. My father worked the land, my mother stitched clothes. I learned to work before I learned to write. Dignity and family meant everything to us, and those values became the compass of my life. For decades, I worked as a seamstress, my hands covered in needle scars, my back bent under the weight of endless fabric. Every stitch I sewed was to feed and clothe my family. My husband, William, was my rock, gentle, dependable, always ready with a hug when I came out of my sewing room exhausted. Together we raised 3 children, Michael, Daniel, and Sophie. Daniel and Sophie were affectionate, grateful kids, but Michael, my eldest, was different. Even as a child, he looked at my calloused hands with disdain. He said openly he didn't want to be a laborer's son. At first, I thought his ambition meant he'd work hard to better himself. Instead, it bred arrogance. By the time he was a man, Michael had launched a construction company, married into wealth, and had 2 children of his own. On the surface, he was successful, but he sneered at me constantly. He mocked the smell of fabric on my clothes, told me not to embarrass him in front of others, and treated me like I was beneath him. When William fell ill with pancreatic cancer, I devoted myself to caring for him, feeding him by hand, holding his trembling body until the very end. Michael rarely visited, always too busy with the company. When William passed, my world shattered. At the funeral, Michael whispered, "Don't worry, Mom. I'll take care of everything." For a moment, I believed him. That was my mistake. Michael lured me into his home in the city, claiming it was safer. Within weeks, he took my identification, pension papers, and even the deed to our farmhouse. He said it was for my own good. Soon, he began tearing away my independence piece by piece. I wasn't allowed to cook, to sit where I wanted, or even speak too much to my grandchildren. When I tried to resist, he'd sneer, "You're old, Mom. Let me handle things. You'll only make a mess." I felt myself shrinking every day, humiliated in front of my grandchildren, treated as if I were useless. Then came the final blow. One morning at breakfast, Michael said, "Mom, I found a place where you'll be better off. You're moving tomorrow." His voice was cold, final. I begged him to explain. He only replied, "You won't bother anyone there." The next dawn, he drove me out of the city. We rode in silence for 2 hours until the car stopped in front of a decaying shack in the woods. The windows were shattered, the roof sagged, and the air reeked of mold. He dragged out my small suitcase, dropped it at my feet, and said, "Don't call me. Don't look for me. This is your place now." Then he sped off, dust swirling behind him. Inside, I found only an old mattress on the floor. That first night, I thought I would freeze to death. My stomach growled from hunger, and rats scurried across the ceiling beams. I walked miles to buy tortillas with the few coins I had. Each step, each empty night, hammered into me the truth. My son had abandoned me like garbage. But here's the thing about being thrown away. You can either rot, or you can grow roots in the dirt. Anger kept me alive. I told myself I would not die forgotten in that ruin. I began walking to the nearby village, where kind neighbors offered food and small jobs. I fixed fences, fed chickens, pulled weeds. My hands, scarred from decades at the sewing machine, proved I was still strong. Slowly, I regained dignity. Then, whispers reached me. Michael's company was drowning in debt. He had borrowed recklessly, gambled on inflated land deals, and now banks were turning him away. The mighty sun who had stripped me of everything was beginning to fall. One day, an old friend, Mr. Fording Henderson, found me working in a neighbor's yard. He shook his head. Eleanor, your boy is in deep trouble. Creditors are closing in. I said nothing, but inside I felt a strange calm. Life has a way of evening its own scales. And then the phone calls started. My battered old cell phone lit up with Michael's name again and again. "Mom, I need help," he cried the first time I answered. His voice was trembling. "The company's collapsing. The creditors are threatening me. Please tell me what to do." I wanted to scream. I wanted to remind him of the day he dumped me in front of that shack. Instead, I stayed silent, letting his desperation hang in the air before I whispered, "You told me I was useless, Michael. Remember?" And I hung up. Over the next week, he called more than 40 times. Sometimes sobbing, sometimes yelling, sometimes begging. He even drove out to see me, kneeling in front of that broken house, pleading like a lost child. For the first time in his life, the arrogant son was at my mercy. But was it real regret, or just another performance to save himself? That was the question burning inside me, and the answer would determine everything that came next. Michael remained on his knees in the dirt, sobbing. His once immaculate suits were wrinkled, his eyes hollowed by sleepless nights. For the first time, I saw him broken, but I didn't rush to comfort him. My heart warred with itself, one part a mother, the other a woman who had been betrayed beyond repair. "Stand up, Michael," I told him firmly. A Hayes doesn't grovel in the mud, not even to his mother. He rose slowly, his head bowed. "I thought I could do it all alone," he whispered. "I thought I was smarter than everyone. But I was wrong. You were always stronger than me." The words should have melted me, but I remembered the night he'd whispered into the phone, planning to leave me in that ruin forever. I remembered the mockery in his voice when he called me useless. My silence was heavier than 1,000 accusations. That night, after he left, I sat awake on the sagging mattress, staring into the dark. His tears could be genuine or just another performance. I couldn't trust him, not yet. At dawn, I walked behind the house and stumbled on something extraordinary. A spring bubbled up from the ground, its water crystal clear, flowing strong. I knelt, cupped it in my scarred hands, and drank. The taste was purer than anything I'd ever known. For the first time since being abandoned, I felt strength surging back through me. Soon after, a lawyer named Mr. Davis, introduced to me by neighbors in the village, visited. He inspected the land and explained something that changed everything. "Mrs. Hayes," he said, "if you continue to live here, work this land, and improve it, you can file for adverse possession. Legally, this property could become yours." "What if Michael tries to claim it?" I asked cautiously. He shook his head. "He abandoned it. He has no legal claim. You, however, are building something here. You can win." The thought set a fire inside me. What Michael had dismissed as worthless might soon belong to me, and not just as a ruin, but as something alive again. As I tilled the soil and planted vegetables, word spread of my discovery. A water expert came and tested the spring. His results left me breathless. "Mrs. Hayes, this is some of the purest, most abundant water I've seen. Companies would pay millions for rights to it. You are sitting on a gold mine." I stared at the flowing water, remembering the day Michael had left me here. He thought it was my grave. He had no idea he was abandoning me onto a treasure. But of course, he found out. First came the pleading calls, then the threats. "Mom, you can't keep this from me. That land is mine." "No, Michael," I told him coldly. "It was never yours." One afternoon, he showed up with 2 burly men and a folder of papers. He tried to push them into my hands. "Sign this, Mom. We'll split everything. You'll get half. It's fair." I laughed bitterly. "Fair? You dumped me here, said this place was worthless. And now you want half?" His hired men shifted uncomfortably, realizing they were being used to intimidate an old woman. "I didn't sign anything when you took my home," I reminded him, standing tall despite my age. "I won't sign anything now." The men left him standing alone, humiliated. "This isn't over," he spat before storming off. But in truth, it already was. The lawyer confirmed the paperwork was moving quickly. The judge's ruling would soon put the land and the spring legally in my name. Meanwhile, representatives from water companies arrived with contracts that could guarantee me more wealth than I had ever imagined. For me, though, it wasn't about riches. It was about justice. Michael's life was crumbling. Creditors chased him, his company collapsed, and whispers spread that he owed money to dangerous people. Yet he still called, still begged. "Mom, please," he cried over the phone one night. "If you don't help me, I'll be ruined. I'll lose everything." I almost laughed. "Lose everything? Michael, you lost me the day you left me here." The next morning, he drove out again, this time alone, shoulders slumped, no swagger left in his step. He sat beside me on the wooden bench by the garden and finally admitted what I'd always suspected. "When I was a kid, I saw you come home tired, your hands raw from sewing." Instead of being proud, I felt ashamed. I didn't want to be like you. But now I realize, those hands gave me everything. I was a fool. For a moment, I believed him. I even felt a glimmer of the boy he once was, before greed hardened his heart. I allowed him to stay with me for a short while, under one condition: no lies, Michael. If you want redemption, you'll prove it with actions. For a few days, he tried. He helped repair fences, carried buckets of water, even planted beans in the soil. One night, he confessed through tears, "I became everything I swore I wouldn't. An empty man chasing money. I was afraid of ending up forgotten, like you. And in that fear, I destroyed you instead." I told him the truth he had always ignored. Dignity, not money, is what matters. "That's what I tried to teach you." He nodded, eyes wet, and for the first time I almost believed change was possible. Then, late one night, I caught him kneeling by the spring, filming it on his phone. "What are you doing, Michael?" I asked sharply, gripping a stick in my hands. He jumped, shoving the phone into his pocket. "Nothing, Mom. I was just looking." I stepped closer, staring him down. "You were recording. For who? The banks? Investors?" "Don't you dare lie to me." He dropped his head, silent. My chest burned with rage. I had given him a chance, and he was betraying me all over again. The next morning, I told him flatly, "Pack your things. Get out. Don't ever come back." "I gave you one chance, Michael, and you wasted it." He left without a word, disappearing down the dirt road. I stood by the spring, the cool water rushing endlessly, and felt a deep calm settle in my bones. This land, this treasure, this justice, it was mine now. And Michael? He was nothing more than a ghost of his own greed. But I was wrong to think it was over. Because soon his desperation would drive him to one final act that tested everything I had rebuilt. After I cast Michael out of my life a second time, I thought I was free. I thought the spring and the land were mine to nurture, to heal me after years of humiliation. The judge's ruling soon came, official, final. The property and the spring were legally in my name. For the first time in decades, I had something no one could take from me. But Michael wasn't finished. Rumors swirled in the village he was drowning in debt, running from loan sharks, desperate to claw his way back. Some said he was selling fake deeds to land that didn't belong to him. Others claimed he was hiding from dangerous men. All I knew was that desperation had turned him into a cornered animal, and cornered animals are dangerous. One foggy night, I heard footsteps outside. My heart raced. Through the window, I saw Michael again, creeping near the spring with a flashlight. He wasn't alone. Two rough-looking strangers shadowed him. Rage boiled inside me. He wasn't just betraying me again, he was trying to sell off the one thing that had given me back my dignity. I stormed outside, gripping the same stick I'd used before. "Michael," I shouted, "what do you think you're doing?" He froze, the flashlight trembling in his hands. The men beside him looked uneasy, clearly not expecting a 74-year-old woman to confront them in the dead of night. "Mom, this isn't what it looks like," he stammered. "Don't you dare lie to me again." My voice cut sharper than any blade. "This spring is mine." The law says so, and I will never, ever let you steal from me again." The strangers exchanged glances. One muttered, "We didn't sign up for this," and walked off. The other followed, leaving Michael standing there, abandoned once more, just as he had once abandoned me. He dropped to his knees in the dirt, sobbing, "Please, Mom. I've lost everything. My company, my house, even my wife. If I don't pay back what I owe, I'm finished. I'll be ruined. Help me." I looked down at him, and for a moment I saw the boy he used to be running to me after scraping his knee, looking for comfort. My heart twisted. A mother's love never truly dies. But love doesn't erase betrayal. "You left me here to rot," I said quietly. "You stole my home, my money, my dignity. You told me I was useless, and now you want me to save you?" He sobbed harder. "I didn't know what I was doing. I was blind, greedy, stupid. Please, just give me something. A share, a little help. I swear I'll change." I bent down, lifted his chin, and met his tearful eyes. "Michael, sometimes the only way to learn the value of life is to lose everything. And you've brought this on yourself." His face crumpled. He tried to hug me, but I stepped back. "I can forgive you in my heart," I told him, "but I will not forget, and I will not give you what you didn't value when you had it." The spring gurgled behind us, steady and strong, as if the earth itself echoed my words. Michael rose slowly, broken, and stumbled back to his truck. Before driving away, he whispered, "Maybe someday you'll understand." Then he was gone. That was the last time I ever saw him. Weeks later, the contracts were signed. A water distribution company agreed to pay me royalties beyond anything I'd dreamed, but the money wasn't what mattered. I used it to rebuild the house, turning the crumbling ruin into a warm, welcoming home. I planted a lush garden, raised chickens, and carved a plaque with my husband's name, William Hayes, so he would always be part of the land that saved me. My other children, Daniel and Sophie, visited often with their families. My grandchildren played in the garden, laughing as they splashed in the fresh water from the spring. Watching them run free, I felt peace settle deep in my soul. Michael never returned. I heard whispers that he moved far away, still haunted by debt and disgrace. I don't know if he'll ever change. But I do know this: I can no longer carry the weight of his choices. Every person must face the consequences of their actions, even our children. Now, each morning, I sit by the spring with a cup of coffee. The water runs clear and endless, a reminder that even when life strips us bare, we can find strength in the most unexpected places. Sometimes I think of Michael, and yes, it hurts. A mother's love never disappears completely. But I've learned that loving doesn't mean allowing someone to destroy you. I am not the useless old woman he once called me. I am Eleanor Hayes, a woman who endured betrayal, who rose from abandonment, and who found justice in the very place my son thought would be my grave. And if you're listening to this now, I want you to remember, even when you've been cast aside, even when life feels unfair, there is always a way to rise again. If my story moved you, subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Leave a comment with your city and share if you've ever faced betrayal or had to reclaim your dignity. Because stories like mine and yours prove that no matter how dark it gets, the day always comes when justice knocks at the door.